Welcome to The Perfect Workout, where we bring you expert exercise advice, practical workout tips, and inspiring stories from the world of fitness and wellness. I'm Jordan Thompson, and today I'm sitting down with Dr. Sean Pruis. Sean has 10 plus years of experience as a personal trainer, leading over 12,000 personal training sessions. He wrote The Heart Healthy Lifestyle, Guide to Prevent Type 2 Diabetes, and Sean holds a doctorate in kinesiology and a master's in exercise and wellness. He's dedicated to helping people adopt healthy habits for a happier life. And we're joined by Jim Keane. Jim is the world's leading expert in adaptive resistance technology. He spent a decade as a fitness business owner, trainer, and coach, and has given over 1,000 live demonstrations on this technology and designed the protocols and programs used globally today. Jim's passion is making strength training accessible to all by removing barriers to entry and promoting consistency for health and longevity. Welcome, guys. How you doing?
Doing great.
Doing great. Thanks for having us, Jordan.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. I'm excited to talk about today's topic because I think it's one that is really important for anyone looking to lose weight or have any type of weight loss goal. And that is why strength training is absolutely necessary for healthy and sustainable fat loss. Before we dive into why strength training is absolutely necessary for fat loss, can you guys tell me a little bit about what the difference is between losing weight and losing fat? Because I know there's a difference, and I don't think that everyone is aware of what that is.
So we hear this phrase losing weight a lot. People, it's the biggest goal that people pursue, especially when the new year starts. January, a lot of people going back to the gym, and for a variety of reasons, but the main reason typically is weight loss. People aren't really seeking to lose weight. They're seeking to lose fat. We have all different types of tissue in our body, and we use this phrase losing weight, but if you lost 10 pounds and 8 of those pounds were muscle, you probably wouldn't be happy. You wouldn't be encouraged by the changes you see in the mirror. So with weight loss, we have weight loss that comes from lean tissue, which is bone, it's water weight, it's muscle tissue, and then we also have fat tissue. Typically, people want to lose fat. Unfortunately, though, if we're not doing the right things, we can lose as much as 20 to 30% of our weight from lean tissue. So for every 10 pounds, we might be losing somewhere around 2 to 3 pounds of bone, muscle, and other things that we're not trying to lose.
So if I had a weight loss goal, let's say I wanted to lose 10 pounds, and I've been using the scale to measure that progress, and 10 weeks from now, I step on the scale and I've lost those 10 pounds. How do I know if I've actually lost fat or if I'm also losing muscle and bone, like you say?
Well, there's a lot of things you could do. I mean, measurements are helpful in this area. If you notice that like you're measuring your body and your midsection is getting smaller, but your arms and your chest and your thighs aren't necessarily getting smaller, that might be a good indication that you're losing fat, you're losing the weight you want to lose. How your clothes fit is also a great indicator. Granted, it's not exact science, but if you notice the sleeves in your t-shirts are getting tight, but your midsection is getting smaller, you're probably gaining muscle or at least maintaining muscle and losing fat. So those kind of rough indicators are usually good signs for what to look at.
Okay, Jim, why is strength training necessary for fat loss? Why should I be lifting weights?
Well, kind of like what Sean was saying, a lot of people think that what they're after is weight loss. But like we talked about, you can accomplish your goal of weight loss and then wake up one day and your body composition is actually worse. So yes, you've lost weight, but a lot of that has been muscle. And that's a bummer because later on, when it's time to bring the calories back up to a decent level because you were cutting, because you were losing weight, you have a smaller engine. You have less muscle, and muscle is very metabolically active. So now your metabolic rate has been depressed. So now you end up on the yo-yo because you're hungry. You've lost a bunch of weight. You're hungry, and your sleep isn't so great, and you end up craving fattier foods, sugary foods, things that are uniquely fattening, and you have a lower metabolic rate in the process. So the reason strength training is so important is that when you decide to eat in a way that will provoke fat loss, not just weight loss, but fat loss, strength training is the one tool, aside from making sure you have ample protein, strength training is the primary tool to make sure that as much as possible, you're maintaining your engine, you're maintaining your muscle mass so that later on, you eventually are going to come out of the diet. You're not going to diet down to 0 pounds. Eventually, you're going to raise calories again. You're going to live a life. And when you do, you better have some muscle.
When we say the word strength training, I feel like everybody has a specific picture in their mind of what that means. And there's a lot of different ways to strength train, are there not?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if we're talking about the smartest way to strength train for fat loss, to lose fat and sustain those results over time, what does that ideal strength training look like? What type of strength training should people be doing?
Well, one big contribution from strength training to weight loss is that a single workout can increase metabolism up to 72 hours afterwards. So really you could think of strength training as not only maintaining your muscle, as Jim was telling us, but also it increases your metabolism, boosts your engine, to use Jim's phrase, for a couple of days afterwards. And if we're boosting our metabolism for up to 72 hours, if you strength train twice a week, you basically have an elevated metabolism all the time. And so if you're looking at it from a frequency standpoint, working out twice a week is ideal for getting that metabolic advantage. Now, if you're also concerned about muscle growth, or at least maintaining your muscle and maintaining your strength while you're losing weight, a frequency of about twice a week is shown to be optimal. So really 2 full body workouts per week are enough to keep the muscle tissue you want to keep during weight loss, but also give you that metabolic boost that you're probably seeking to help with the calorie restriction, to lead to that ultimate combination of losing fat, gaining muscle, or at least keeping muscle, and ultimately looking better at the end of it.
I mean, that's what we want, right? At the end of the day, just
Yeah.
look better.
Well, look good on the beach. Absolutely.
That's right. Okay. So you say full body workout twice a week. Jim, for somebody who just does not know how to put a full body workout together, could you maybe walk us through some specific, like a specific strength training workout that would be ideal for someone who's looking, to optimize their fat loss?
Sure. So for fat loss, you want to get the most, what I would call, metabolic bang for your buck. What is the largest amount of muscle mass that I can place a demand on, that I can stimulate in the fewest number of movements and the shortest amount of time? So we don't need to be in the gym 2-3 hours a pop. Like Sean was saying, twice per week is more than sufficient, and in fact, ideal. And so the way you would design it is you would focus on what they call compound movements. Those are movements that involve rotation around more than one joint. Think of things like squats, leg press, chest press, overhead press, pull down, large movements involving each of them a wide variety of target musculature. So a lot of different muscles all in one move. So an efficient, effective, safe, full body workout might be something like go into the weight room and it could be with barbells and dumbbells, free weights, or it could be with the weight stack machines, whatever suits your comfort level. And you would first do some leg movement, compound leg movement. This could be barbell squat. This could be a leg press on a weight stack machine. You get the idea. Rotation around the hips and the knees, flexion and extension. Then a good kind of mutual fund way to hit the rest of the musculature in the body is to do, with the upper body, a horizontal push and a horizontal pull. So like a row and a chest press or a bench press. And then vertical push and pull. So that's overhead press and chin-ups or pull-downs. You can also do dips. The idea is to hit a large amount of muscle mass in a short period of time and then safely provide sufficient demand on the body, intensity. You need to approach deep levels of fatigue to provoke your body to produce the adaptive response that you're after. Also, the muscles, the larger skeletal muscles on your body, those are your biggest reservoirs of sugar that your body can store. And so if fat loss is one of your goals, it's highly desirable for you to empty the stores. The sciencey term is glycogen. It's a bunch of sugar molecules all connected together. That is what is burnt when deep fatigue is reached. So you want large amounts of muscle mass covering all the major muscular structures of the body. An example would be legs, horizontal push, horizontal pull, vertical push, vertical pull. And you would do it in such a way that it can't last very long because you're going so hard in a safe way. So that would be a great example of sort of a full body routine that would accomplish some of those goals you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think a really important thing that you touched on was that you shouldn't be able to do it for a really long time, right? If it's an exercise that you can do for a long period of time, then the intensity is simply not high enough. And if you can barely do it for, what would you say, a minute or so, or maybe 45 seconds, it might be too intense.
Yeah, it's you need a certain duration to provoke some of the downstream effects that we're looking for in regards to fat loss. So it's kind of a teeter-totter. You can go really heavy, but you can't go for very long. It's desirable in this case to go for longer, so you got to go a little bit lighter. Now, that actually improves the effectiveness of the exercise in certain ways, because with a lighter weight, you can reach deeper levels of fatigue. Of course, if you go too light, then it's not of a sufficient mechanical load to provoke the proper response. So there's this Goldilocks area right around, I don't know, 60 to 90 seconds, where if you can go longer than 90 seconds, maybe you need to up the weight for next time. But if you can't make it to 60, maybe you back it off a little bit and you find that Goldilocks zone where you select a weight that permits movement for about 60 to 90 seconds. And if done properly, additional sets will be neither necessary nor desirable, and you're good to go. And you can hit it again 3 days later and go for a little bit longer on all the movements. And so keep it consistent and standardized, large muscles, short amount of time. And if you're in there for an hour, you need to go heavier for next time.
Okay, good to know. The sweet spot, 60 to 90 seconds. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what are just some of the common misconceptions that either of you are aware of when it comes to strength training and fat loss. Like, I know one that comes up for me, because I've heard from all kinds of different people, is strength training is just going to make me bigger and bulkier. And that's kind of the opposite of what people are after when their goal is weight loss. So can you guys just talk to me about some of those misconceptions and how we can reframe them?
A common theme that I heard when I was training clients, it was, as you mentioned, people who are worried. A woman would come up to me and say, well, how do we do this while making me stronger without me getting bulky? And the funny phrase of the day was, strength training does not make women bulky. Cupcakes make women bulky. And so there's an entire $1 billion industry trying to get teenage and early 20s males to grow big muscles. And the reason they sell so much product is because it's really hard. This is a population of people who's in their genetic and hormonal prime, these young males, and even they can't get bulky. So they buy product and they buy protein and they get peptides and they do all sorts of things just to try to get bulky. So if that population of people is having a hard time bulking up, what are the odds that you, a 45-year-old female without a lot of training experience, is going to be able to just bulk up? So not very much. So you don't need to worry about that. What you need to monitor is not the size growth of the muscle, because that's probably past. The idea is it's going to be the shape and the development of the muscle. They call it the tonus, the tone of the muscle at rest. So as you get stronger, you have a more pleasing shape, a more pleasing silhouette. And if you find that you've gotten too bulky, you wake up one day and you're too bulky, worry not. All you got to do is stop working out for 2 weeks and you will no longer be bulky. That muscle will just slide right off. No problem. And in the process, you've improved your body composition, improved your longevity, and shown yourself that you can commit to something and succeed. And so I'd say it's all upside and no downside. And no, you don't need to worry about getting too bulky.
Did you just say a word a second ago that was like the origin of people wanting to tone up?
Yeah, the Latin is tonus. It's the muscle at rest is its tonus. Like, hey, baby, that's a nice tonus you got over there. Oh.
Okay, all right. So we have a little history lesson there. I've never heard that before. I've always wondered where people got that, because it's like what everyone wants. That's the goal.
Yeah, I don't want to get big. I just want to get like toned. I just want to tone.
Yeah. Yeah. Sean, what about you? Any common misconceptions or myths that come up for you?
Absolutely, Jordan. There's a couple of things. One is that strength training is not the type of exercise to do to lose weight. That's been, right, somehow aerobic or activities or cardio, whatever you want to call it, has been the weight loss activity, and strength training is more like when you want to gain strength and muscle, then you go and do that thing. But this couldn't be further from the truth when you look at research comparing people who do strength training and restricting calories versus aerobics and restricting calories. You find better results of the strength training group, and they tend to lose more weight. Plus, they maintain their muscle way better, which ultimately, as Jim mentioned before, is better because you look better. You look better with your clothes on, with your clothes off, and that's the goal. And so it helps not only assist with the fat loss, but it also makes us look better because we're maintaining or gaining muscle while losing fat. That's one thing. I would also say that the concept that more is better, and this is something that we think about in a lot of areas of life where it's like, well, if I'm doing this a moderate amount, let me do this more because it's good. This, unfortunately, is not the case. And there are studies showing this with people who are working out, whether it's aerobic activities or strength training, 6 to 7 days a week. And what happens as a result is one of two things. When people are working out intensely just about every day, for many, their metabolism decreases. So they're used to burning X amount, and then all of a sudden their metabolism decreases by a significant amount of calories per day because their body is compensating. They're doing so much exercise that their body is looking to expend less energy in other ways. So maybe they start producing less hormones, or maybe their cardiovascular system is a little less active. So they'll find ways to compensate, leading to a lower overall calorie expenditure. The other way that people will compensate for this, a lot of daily exercise or high frequency of intense exercise, is that they'll do less outside of exercise. And this is referred to as NEAT, non-exercise adaptive thermogenesis. It's a very complex way of saying you burn calories by doing really simple things in your life. So it's when you're sitting around, you're playing with your hair, or you're playing with your pen, or maybe when you're standing somewhere, you might tend to pace back and forth. These simple activities can help you burn up to hundreds of calories per day. But when people are working out so often, they will basically become inactive. They'll become couch potatoes outside of their workouts. And so they will compensate for their workouts by becoming slugs, and therefore overall end up burning less calories and losing less weight because they're expending so much energy in the gym to intensely strength train, or to run long distances, or to do interval training of some other kind, leading to them becoming tired everywhere else in their life.
I think that one's huge. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dr. Jade Teta. He's like a women's hormone and metabolic expert. He's got some fantastic content on exactly what you were just talking about. And there's one line that can be summed up there, that it's be a mover, not an exerciser when you're after fat loss, because it talks just about what you were mentioning. That NEAT, I think he said it burns like 200% more calories a day than exercise does. I mean, don't quote me on that. But so if you're just focusing 2 20, 30-minute workouts a week with strength training as a priority, and then focusing on moving your body just in a non-exercise way throughout the rest of the week, would you say that would be an ideal strategy for someone who's looking to lose weight?
Absolutely. Yes. So you want to exercise, as Jim mentioned, you want to exercise intensely, but it's like a medication. There's a desired dosage. You don't want to exceed the dosage that's effective. You want to get the right dosage, and then allow the rest of the time for the medicine to do its part. In this case, for the strength training, to boost your metabolism, to stimulate your body to keep your muscle mass. And then you should have energy outside the gym because you're not excessively exercising, to walk around your house, or to pace, or to play with your hair or your pen, and do all these small things that increase calorie expenditure the rest of the time.
And about that, the more is better part, one of the misconceptions and the reason people come to conclude that more is better is because they have a misunderstanding of the basics of how the exercise works. If you think that calories are the only story, then you would naturally conclude that, yes, more is better, because the more calories I burn, the better. And it's only about that. But tragically, that's not the way it works. The way it works is the exercise is not for the purpose of burning calories. The exercise is primarily for the purpose of stimulating the body. Then the body, so that's step one. That's the workout. It's a very negative thing for the body. It becomes very fatigued very quickly, and it thinks it's about to die. So it releases all sorts of adaptive chemicals and hormones, which are beneficial for step 2, which is where the good stuff happens. Step 2 is when you sleep. That's when you're recovering. That's when you're de-stressing. That's when you're eating nutritious food that helps rebuild. And it's your body during step 2 that produces the good stuff. The workout does not produce the good stuff that we want. It's your body that does that. So now with that understanding, we can see why hitting it hard every single day is actually counterproductive. You will produce a reduction in performance over time if you don't allow your body to produce step 2. So you got to give it enough nutrition, enough sleep, enough rest, and keep away from enough stress that your body is actually able to synthesize the adaptive response, which you then get to enjoy in the form of more developed muscles, greater strength, better longevity, and better health. So that's one of the reasons people think more is better, is because they just don't understand that the good thing that we want doesn't actually happen when you're working out. It happens later. The workout's only purpose is to stimulate the body, place a demand on it meaningful enough that it will then move into action, producing the desired adaptive response.
Cool. So I think we've covered a lot of really valuable information on this topic for anyone who's looking to lose weight or is maybe even struggling to lose weight or sustain their weight loss goals. You guys have given us a lot to think about. What's one simple action step that each of you could give anyone who's watching or listening to this today to implement strength training for their fat loss goals if they haven't already done so? Sean?
I think Jim touched on the most important thing before, is that when you're thinking about strength training, it's not that complex. Yes, it's more complex than walking, but it's not that complex. We're talking about a workout can be as little as 6 exercises where you're doing a pushing and a pulling movement for your lower body and a couple of pushing and pulling movements for your upper body. And you work hard, you choose a challenging weight, a weight that's challenging from the start, and you do all that you can. And then you go in the gym a couple days later and you do it again. Increase the weights periodically. It's really that simple. But if there is any doubt that you think that strength training is the right option for you, just keep in mind, there is nothing else that has the weight impacts that strength training does. If you were to choose other types of exercise or go for cardio activities, they don't efficiently lead to weight loss, despite the fact of what we've thought about for a long time, that if you're looking to lose weight, you're going to just go out for runs every day. You're going to go through your Rocky montage with hitting the punching bag, going to group exercise classes. It just doesn't work that way. It's not shown, and that's proven in research. People can exercise hours a week with cardio and lose a half pound a week. It comes mainly through cutting your calories and strength training, which is going to increase your metabolism. It's going to maintain your muscle mass. And if you can do those two things, strength training twice a week, plus being consistent with a calorie restriction, you will have great fat loss success.
Awesome. Jim?
Basically, the thing I'd say is when it comes to exercise and strength training, half of a sure thing is better than twice of nothing. You don't need a fancy routine that takes a lot of time, huge learning curve. You don't need that. All you need to do is find a way to place a demand on your muscles. In fact, it's like that Bruce Lee quote where he says, "I'm not scared of the guy who practiced 10,000 different kicks one time. I'm terrified of the guy who practiced one kick 10,000 times." So even if you have to go find a trainer, go to a gym, hire somebody to show you just the basics that we've talked about, just the very basic large lifts. And when he tries to recommend other stuff, say no. Just repetitively practice those basics. Get really skilled at just the basic lifts, and you can do it. You can go from 0 to 1 very easily, and then you're most of the way there. You're just getting started, overcoming that inertia, and getting off your couch and leaving the house and going and doing this for yourself. That's what I would recommend. Just getting started in the simplest, most efficient way you can, and hiring help if you have to. But if you can get really good just from repetition at a leg press, a chest press, a row, an overhead press, and a pull down, and a couple other things you might want to do, and keep it just there, you can get started. You can keep going. You can increase the weights over time, and then you'll be one of those exercise people who does strength training, and there's no mystery to it. You just got to get started.
So good. Thank you guys for the really valuable information. the simple tips that people can implement. And most importantly, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan.